So now we move on to the Upanishads. So for those of you who have already had a previous experience with the Vedic literature, I'm sure a lot of people out there, they do not directly refer to the Sanskrit version of these things because they are written in a very complicated Sanskrit. So majority of the people who study these scriptures in the contemporary world, they usually do it in some sort of a translation, and it is largely the English translations that people refer to. So, word of caution for all of those who refer to those translations, that includes me as well, because since that is the only language that is accessible to a majority of people nowadays. So, if you are referring to translations, there are things that tend to get lost in translation. That is number one. Number two is there was a clear vested interest for people who were translating these things. That is, at the time of being translated, the colonization was at its peak, and the core idea of colonization was the white race, that is, the white race being the supreme race. So the core idea was being projecting racial superiority. So do not depend too much upon the translation. The poor people who have translated, they had vested interests. Having said that, so now we move on towards the Upanishads. They are, it is said, and rightly said so, that there is a clear-cut distinction between the Vedic thought and the thought in the Upanishads, meaning the literature that we find in the Upanishads, it is independent of the Vedas. There is nothing, because if you see, the Rig Veda is the original one, and the other Vedas, they borrow heavily from the hymns of Rig Veda, adding some or the other modification. But when you come to the age of the Upanishads, it is independent of the Vedic thought. One would wonder what exactly was different. So to give you a glimpse into it, during the Rigvedic Aryans and the people focused largely on the outside world, that is, whatever the self is observing, whatever the senses are perceiving. So their proclivities, their thoughts, their songs, their hymns, everything was related to the outside world. But when you come to the Upanishads, the focus has shifted inwards towards the inner self, the innermost self.